Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Alexander Dawson Zoomcast. I'm Andrew Bishop, Assistant Head of School at the Alexander Dawson School. Today, I've got the good pleasure of welcoming three of our newest faculty members to the Dawson community, Lee, Rachael Pruitt, and Rachael Stratmeyer. All three bring a wealth of different experiences, and knowledge to our campus. They've been with us now for what seems like much more than 2 weeks, but they've gone through new faculty orientation. This week, they're engaging in our Teacher Academy Week, and already they've made an immediate and positive impact on our school community. But before I turn it over to them to introduce themselves, I thought I would just give some of our other listeners out there just a quick, introductory on me. My name is Andrew Bishop. I'm the Assistant Head of School at the Alexander Dawson School. This is my third year. It's hard to believe I'm going into year 3, but it has been already. It feels like I've been here, for a long time. Before coming to Dawson, I was the assistant head of school at a boarding school in Maine called Gould Academy. And prior to that, I worked at a pre-K-12 independent school in Southern Maine called Berwick Academy, where I started as a teacher of English, was a hockey and lacrosse coach, and then moved my way into the administrative ranks as a director of admissions. Also, on a really personal level, my proudest accomplishment is father of 3 kids. 2 go to Dawson. They're super stoked to be back on campus, soon. So that's a little bit more on me, and I'll turn it over to Rachael Pruitt, who will introduce herself.
Hello, my name is Rachael Pruitt, and I actually grew up in Germany. I'm a military brat, so that's kind of my first home. But from there, I've lived pretty much everywhere else in the world. But the most recent place that I lived was Virginia. I was there for 18 years. I got out of the military and called that home, so I stayed there. I went to school. I went to 3 different colleges. I have a bachelor's in chemistry from Prairie View A&M University. I have a master's in management from Troy State University, and I also have a systems engineering degree from the Naval Postgraduate School. Hobbies include reading. I'm an avid reader. I love traveling, and I love to cook. And along the lines of the cooking, I like health and fitness, so I try to do healthy meals and try to stay fit as well. Last job was, I was at Clark County School District. That's what brought me here to the Vegas area. I was teaching high school chemistry at El Dorado High School. And before going there, I was in Alexandria, Virginia, teaching middle school at FCH Hammond Middle School. Family. Well, my family consists of, right now, I have 2 sons, ages 21 and 19, and newly engaged, and hopefully to get married by the summer. COVID kind of put a little dent in when we were going to get married. So it'll probably be next summer. So.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and Rachael Stratmeyer, do you want to go next? And so folks out there can get to know you a little bit more.
Of course, I'd be happy to. So my name is Rachael Stratmeyer. I grew up in Wisconsin, not on a farm, not very near any cows, but still a very nice place to grow up. I lived there through my undergraduate. So I did my undergraduate degree at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. Then I moved to Boston, and I taught in 2 suburbs of Boston. Then I moved to Washington, D.C., and I taught in Northern Virginia. And moved to Northern Virginia. I only lived in DC for 1 year. Then we lived in Virginia. While I was there, I was lucky enough to do my master's at the University of Virginia, and had some really good teaching experiences, meeting interesting people, and sort of being in a school where my principal was really proud of me and encouraged me. And so it really helped me sort of blossom as a teacher. Then I went to the Netherlands, and I taught at an international school for 4 years. And then last year we moved back to the States, to Las Vegas, and I taught at CCSD last year. I was a learning strategist, and I'm excited to be here at Dawson this year. My family, I don't have any children. I have a husband and a dog. That's all that we can manage. The dog's more work than 2 children. That's what my mother says. But we're happy to be here. Some of my hobbies, I love being outside. When it's not too hot outside. I actually have taken up knitting this summer, so I'm doing some knitting, and I'm learning tennis. I also like to cook, Rachael, so we can talk about that another time. So that's a little bit about me.
All right. Well, thank you, Rachel. And Mr. Lee, will you kind of take us home as it relates to the introductions?
Absolutely. Hello, my name is Lee Shurtleff. I grew up in Laguna Beach, California. I was very, very fortunate to be able to have wonderful teachers in elementary school and high school, where I was able to go to Thatcher School for high school. While attending Thatcher, I really was, my eyes were opened. I was able to see and be a part of many different cultures and kind of learn more about the world and global awareness, more so than in my little bubble in Laguna Beach. And so from there, I was able to go to college. I went to Menlo College near San Francisco, and I was able to play soccer in the college level. So I was able to do that and kind of use my love of sports, even at the collegiate level. I love sports, and so those are kind of my hobbies. One of my favorite things to do in the last 7 years in Las Vegas has been to coach middle school and high school sports teams. I am convinced that my winning record against Dawson may be a small part of why I got hired. That's a small joke. But I do love my sports, and it's been something that I really think that our children can use for as part of the social emotional curriculum and just a way that we can build ourselves as a community. My hobbies, again, sports. I enjoy camping, going out, enjoying the outdoors. Thatcher really got that into me. And I did have my horse my very first year. And so for an entire year, I took care of a horse, cleaned him, cleaned the poop, did all of it. So if anyone needs some lessons, I'm here for you. Family, I have my wife, Laurel, is also an elementary school teacher in Las Vegas. And I have two little girls, Cora, who's 2 years old, and Eve, who is 6 months.
You bet. Well, I mean, I think what I'm really kind of struck by is the diversity, of experiences, that everyone brings. And I think, well, what I've heard is that we all have divergent experiences, whether that's, how we've grown up, where we've grown up, where we've worked, previously. However, the common denominator is they're all converging, on Dawson. I think that makes it really, really special. Lee touched upon something, talking about his experience at Thatcher and the teachers that he had. And I'd be curious to know, from this group, even though our experiences are so radically different, what are some of the reasons that made you want to become a teacher or go into education? I know for me personally, it had a lot to do with the teachers that I had, but I'd be curious to know, for you, why is it that you chose this profession, and why is it that this profession means so much to you?
I can go ahead and start. What drew me to being a teacher was actually circumstance, because prior to being a teacher, I was in the military, and I was, again, a systems engineer, and had never thought about education until the economy changed and layoffs. And so one day I just was sitting and talking to my son's middle school principal, and I was like, "Hey, are you hiring?" And she said, "I am." She said, "Can you teach science?" I go, "I have a chemistry degree. Will that help?" She goes, "Sure. Put in an application." So I put in an application, got interviewed the next day, and was hired the next day. So I was literally thrown into a classroom from being an engineer and never had taught kids. I thought it would just be a temporary thing to just kind of hold me until I would go back into the engineering field, and got in there and loved it. And I met great teachers. There was a teacher across the hall from me. She had been teaching over 30 years, and she taught science, and she took me under her wing, and she was the first one that really taught me about what it was to be a teacher. And I just love the relationships with the students, the relationships with the faculty, and I was hooked. So that's what drew me in, and I'm still here.
Well, thank you so much. Others?
I sometimes struggle with this question. I am not someone who thought I wanted to be a teacher forever. I became a teacher because a few people suggested it to me, that maybe with my skill set that would be a good career. I first wanted to be president. Then I thought maybe I'd be like a psychiatrist. I think I liked that idea of like helping people, talking through things. And then I sort of just fell upon teaching. And once I started doing practicums in education school, I loved it. And I remember thinking like, they're going to pay me to do this someday. Like I am doing it while I'm paying. So that was sort of the moment I felt like I made the right decision.
for me, the reason I became a teacher, there were many moments in my life that have led up to becoming a teacher. When I was in third grade, I had my first male teacher. His name was Mr. Barth, and he really made a connection with a lot of the boys in our classroom. My parents had recently been divorced, and so having that strong male figure was someone that I really appreciated. And that was someone, a mentor that I could go to when I had questions. And so I thought, if this person is so giving and helping me, maybe I can repair the world and give back to the world in that way as well. So that was one little seed. When I went to Thatcher, we are asked to volunteer and do things in our community to build up our community. And so for me, I volunteered my senior year in the public school in Ojai Valley. And being able to work with students, one student particularly, named Angel, that I was able to speak with in Spanish, I was able to hear and listen to him, and seeing that our underserved population and minorities who are not given maybe the same opportunities as us, I would like to be an agent of change and be someone that can help bridge that gap in equities and make sure that we are constantly looking at how we can make the world a better place for everyone and not just the majority. And then when I had my very first classroom, it was a dual immersion school in Santa Ana, California, 40 students, all Latino, and it was supposed to be 90% done in Spanish and 10% done in English. And so when I completely flipped and was in their classroom in a school that was created for that community, I was able to see how a diverse curriculum that supports and upholds the values of everyone and important people, it really creates a amazing place for everyone to grow and learn.
No, thank you. Thank you all for sharing that. I guess the thread that I heard, across all of these answers had to do with community, right? And how that community, is essentially created through colleagues, through parents, through kids. And, what I'm always, blown away by, here at Dawson is, we're such a strong community, and the unification of our community, part of the ethos of that has to do with our mission and our core beliefs, and the people here are coming here for like-minded reasons, right? And even just listening to the three of you, today, I know that our kids and our families are in great hands, and that you're here. And even though you're new to Dawson, what you believe in and what you believe to be the power of education and what education can do, that's what we've stood for 20 years, already as a school, right? And you're coming into a place that might be short on history, in comparison to some other schools, right? But is really, really deep in terms of character and in terms of the things that we believe in, as an organization and as an institution. So just thank you so much for sharing deeply about, why you chose, the field of education and why you're here, at Dawson. When I reflect back, on my days as an English teacher, I know that there are always some lessons and some units and some books that meant a lot to me. It always make me, really inspired and jazzed up, to teach. And so, from this group, are there some units or lessons or some classes that mean a lot to you and that make you, incredibly passionate, as an educator? And so I saw Rachael Pruitt do the bobblehead nod. So maybe you can kind of kick us off and share with us.
Yeah, I think for me, it would be chemistry.
Yep.
Because, again, I majored in chemistry in college, but when I was in high school, I hated chemistry. And, but when I went to college, I thought I would like it more, but I still hated chemistry. But I was more interested in the biology, but academically it made more sense to major in chemistry than it was to major in biology. So I went on and did it. And then I never really did anything with it all the time in my other field until I came back to teaching. And then when I came there, I was hoping that maybe they would say, well, you'd be a great, information technology teacher. And they were like, no, we'd like you to be that chemistry teacher. So I got in there, and I would always tell my students, what better person to teach chemistry than the one that hated it the most? Because, I'm going to find those shortcuts, and I'm going to find those easy ways to make it easy for you. Because when I took that time and started refreshing myself with chemistry again, I actually started to love it, and it started making sense, and it started clicking. And so my goal was, when I come here, I want to make it as fun and exciting and as interesting for the kids, because then maybe more kids might like chemistry. Because when I would ask how many kids like chemistry, you might get like one hand or two hands in the classroom. But by the end of school, I got a lot of kids saying, Miss, I really like chemistry. So my goal is to make that class much more enjoyable.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that sometimes we think the teachers are experts in all areas, and the times that I enjoy teaching the most and I'm the most jazzed is when I'm teaching something that maybe I don't feel I'm an expert at. So I am working really hard to learn about it and figure out the best way of teaching. To me, that's one of the best parts of teaching, is like the problem solving nature of trying to figure out how you're going to help this group of kids learn what they need to learn, and almost in some ways learning alongside your students, because I think in a lot of ways we're just guides in the learning process, and it's not that like pour the knowledge into the head, but sort of like help facilitate. And I think that's when it's the most exciting, when we're sort of, I'm forging forward and helping myself learn new things through the course as well.
Amazing. Thank you.
Hey, so for me, I would say things that I really enjoy teaching. I kind of have a three-way tie, if I'm allowed to do that.
Sure.
My absolute favorite is math. I love teaching math. I love giving multiple strategies, whether it's enrichment, whether it's review, it doesn't matter. I love teaching math, being able to see different ways to solve problems, see different ways that children are able to think outside the box, and then be able to look at their neighbor and say, here's what I did. What did you do differently? And really look at that piece. So I love math and being able to work with different people in that sense. I love writing. I'm somewhat of an introvert, and so a lot of the times I will write in a journal or think about different genres of writing. And in terms of with students, I look at how can I engage that student in writing. There are many different ways to start, and we look at a student as an individual. What's best for you? A student-centered classroom, as opposed to what's best that I can teach you. I want to create lessons that are around the student, that are best for the student, giving tools and scaffolding to make sure that they are successful, whatever that means for that student. My third favorite thing is actually, like Rachel, is science. The last 4 years, I was the elementary science teacher at Henderson International School, and I loved teaching science. I'll be real with you. Being able to talk about engineering, earth sciences, all the 4 different strands that I really went into, and giving project-based learning and allowing kids to explore and have personalized experiences of working in a greenhouse, using all the tools that you have, and I just love it. So all 3 of those are probably my favorite. I can't discern between the 3.
No, totally. Well, thank you, for these. I guess what I heard is, a commonality that has to do with students, right? And really being student-centered, in your approach to teaching and learning. And I think, that's something, here at Dawson, that means, the world to us, as a school. And it differentiates us, from other, schools, not just in Las Vegas, but across the country. And really we put, at the front and center of what we do, how is it that students are learning to engage? How is it they're learning to think differently? And we care way more about their individual development as human beings and as students, and a lot less, right, about covering massive amounts of content, or curriculum, and them just achieving well on test scores. Yes, we make it through our curriculum. Yes, our kids do really well on tests. But because of teachers like you, what they really, really learn is how to be self-monitoring, self-motivating, self-assessing learners, right, who learn how to do hard things well. And I think that's because our teachers put at the forefront, of everything they do, the student, right? And they get to know their students, and they really, really get to push their students to become the best versions, of themselves. So, thanks for sharing the things that you love to do, in the classroom, and as educators. I know our families, and students out there are gonna blossom, under your tutelage. So thank you all for sharing about, what made you fall in love with teaching and what are some of the things that you love to teach. Thinking now, a little bit more just about, Dawson, Rachael Pruitt, I'd love to know, why were you drawn, right, to teach at Dawson? What made Dawson kind of this special, learning environment for you as an educator?
Well, I think what drew me to Dawson was my first teaching experiences was always in a Title I school. So all the schools that I taught were Title I. And don't get me wrong, I love my experience. I love making a difference. And but when I was reading and looking at other school options, I started seeing private schools, Catholic schools, and other different types of schools that are available for teachers to work at. And so I've never worked in a private school environment, and I wanted to see what it was like. And so when I did comparisons and looked at what Dawson had to offer, I really liked it seemed like the format of how you teach, which is, again, a little bit different than from public school, because then it gives the teacher a little bit more leeway to give different options and different ways to teach the students. And coming to a school that has kids that really, really want to be there and they're really thirsting to learn, and it just gives you an opportunity to teach them.
No, thank you so much. I think, it's obviously a rigorous, interview process, as we go through. And I think, we obviously learn a lot about, candidates. I think candidates learn a lot about us, in that interview process. And it's clear that, held true, for you, Rachel. Lee, maybe you could talk to us a little bit more about, what the interview process looked like, at Dawson, and maybe more specifically, what are some things that you learned about, us as a school as you made your way through the process?
Oh man, that interview process. Let me tell you what, when I was applying to Thatcher, I thought that, up until that point, or up until I came to Dawson, that was kind of that measure of what was the hardest interview. That interview at Thatcher was 60 minutes long, and it was really hard. It was a lot of hard questions to really get to know you. But with Dawson, I almost feel like it was another level, because it really brought in that social emotional part that teachers were saying, this is just as important as our academics, and looking at the whole child and ensuring, it was very rigorous going through each of the steps, but with each step, you were able to see that every teacher and administrator in that virtual interview really cared and was looking at every piece of, do you have an academic passion? Do you care about students? What do you do to make sure that you can engage your student and push them? Do you see them? Do you hear them? How can you help them grow? And so that's really what I got out of that. And I realized that because it was so rigorous, they're really looking for the top educators. They're looking for the people that are going to push their students to be able to reach that ceiling of success. And so I applaud it. Keep it up, make it harder, because that way we can keep getting the amazing faculty that we have here.
No, for sure. No, and I think, ultimately too, I think it's a self-selecting group of people, that will go through, that type of rigorous process, right? And ultimately, at the end, look at it as, something that is actually satiating, right? And rewarding and inspiring, for them, and not intimidating. So I think, obviously, the three of you made it through, with flying colors. You were, our top choices. And so it's clear that our process is yielding, incredibly talented educators. So now that you've been kind of 2 weeks into it, Rachael Stratmeyer, maybe what are some kind of initial first impressions you've had about Dawson as a school community, as a learning community, from, thinking about new faculty orientation and into Teacher Academy?
My initial experience has been just how kind and genuine the people at Dawson have been. My coworkers, my colleagues, the administration has been really supportive. They're very real people. You can relate to them. And I'm sensing like a real sense of collaboration. People really want to work together and help each other, which is wonderful. I've also been pretty impressed with the organization and how things are clearly communicated, which as a teacher doesn't always happen everywhere you teach, and it makes a massive difference. So I just feel really supported and excited to be a part of the school. Can I move right into Teacher Academy?
Yeah, so maybe if we can hear from everyone, you go first, but what's been like that one highlight of Teacher Academy?
For me, there's been a focus on wellness. So every morning for 30 minutes, right, we're given some options for how to just take care of ourselves. And I think especially in these very challenging times, we're not any good to anyone else if we are run down, right? Like we need to take care of ourselves. And so I've been doing this mindfulness training every morning, and I feel like it's skills that I will continue to use in the future. So that's been my favorite part so far.
Lee, Rachel, other highlights from Teacher Academy?
I think for me, the highlight for Teacher Academy was, since we are new, I was just so amazed at how well other teachers that have been here are so willing to jump in and just help you. By ask a question, they had an answer, or if they didn't, they point me in the direction, or that person would come running to me to give me that answer. And then I love all the curriculum, the helping us with the new learning management system, that even if you didn't get it in the collaboration, you know, people are always just still there ready to help, and it's sincere. And I really found that very helpful.
That's great.
I agree. Piggybacking off what Rachel number two has said, I agree. The people have been so kind, so gracious with their time to ensure that we can really deliver the best product to our students. One more thing that I wanted to bring up was the food. The food is amazing. Oh my goodness. Healthy food. I am full every single day. I can see why the kids love it here, not only because of the great teachers and all that, but the food. I mean, my goodness, chemical energy, right? And so I love it. Good people. I'm just really excited.
Yeah, so you've touched upon some, definitely some Dawson differences. Chef Susan came in, last year, and the food has been off the charts. It's helping my waistline that it's not all you can eat, and that it's prepackaged, right now. So that's been good. But yeah, I think you've all touched upon, some things that make Dawson really, really special. And the most important one, you've all, said it, is the people. Any organization and any school is only as good, as the people who work together. And each and every day I'm equal parts humbled and inspired, by those colleagues that I get to, not just work with, but learn from. And each and every day I'm learning something new, from somebody else. And so for me, that's something that's super heartening. Even just sharing this conversation with you, I've had, so many, key takeaways, and be able to learn more about you as individuals, but also just learn more about how our community is enhanced by your individual stories coming in and being a part now of the collective Dawson story. So thanks so much. Where I thought we could, end today's Zoomcast is, thinking a little bit about this coming year, and if, people, just if you wanted to share, what are some either goals that you have, for the school year, or, what's one piece of advice you might have, for a student coming into your classroom. I thought that would be a really kind of nice way, for us to end. So again, either goals that you have for yourself, or one piece of advice, for a student, or parent coming into a new school year.
I think for me, one goal is to first be a successful teacher, and then also be able to be a good role model for our students here. And even with everything going on in the world right now, and also to be a good model for diversity, and then just to teach students to be independent thinkers and independent workers.
Fantastic, thank you.
I think my goal, and maybe the advice I would also give students, is, especially this year with things that are maybe going to change or be different, is just to sort of keep calm, right? To go one step at a time, to sort of be willing to be flexible, change with things, be calm, yes, not try to keep our stress levels low, right? I like to say, sometimes I've had students who have just super high expectations for themselves, and they take everything and they want to do the best, and they stress themselves out. And I'm often said, your job is to just try to learn. They pay me to be the teacher. I have to figure out how to teach it to you. As long as you're trying to learn, it's going to work out, because that's on me to try to figure out how to help you learn it. So I would say, don't be stressed out. We're going to figure this out together, and it's going to be a great year.
Totally.
My goal for this year is to make sure that every kid is listened to, seen, and helped grow. That looks differently for each child, but I want to make sure that each of those children is able to grow within their zone of proximal development. And then my advice I would say to each kid is, don't be afraid to fail. All of us have failed at something. All of us were a beginner at one time. So don't be afraid to make mistakes. It shows that you're trying. So be ready, have a great school year. Let's start it.
Yeah, no, and I think, I'll end by just saying, first and foremost, thank you to you three for taking the time, today, and talking. Thank you for being part of the Dawson community. I know you're going to make an incredible, difference in the lives of our students, and families. And I'll end by just sharing that, I think my hope, for us as a school, and my hope for families, and students out there, whether you're at Dawson or you're not at Dawson, is be present. Just be present and mindful. And no one knows, what tomorrow is going to hold, what next month's going to hold, what this year is going to hold. So cherish every moment. Really take the most, of being present with, your family, your teachers, your classmates, enjoying it, and knowing the fact that if you do that, tomorrow will take care of itself. So have fun. School was always the best part of my day. I'm super jazzed that we're going to be starting, in campus, classes, next Friday, which is going to be amazing. And I'm just so glad that you three are part of our school community, and that I'm able to be a part of Dawson. So thank you everyone out there for listening, and thank you Rachel, and Lee, for being a part of it.